The sands of Makkah whispered with the winds of time, shifting endlessly, just as the fates of men. I was born into those sands, a child of two worlds yet owned by neither. My mother, Hamama, had once been free in the distant land of Abyssinia, but the cruelty of fate had brought her into servitude. And I, her son, knew nothing but the life of a slave. From the moment I could walk, I learned to move in silence, to obey without question. My master, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, was a man of wealth, his name commanding respect among the Quraysh. To him, I was but another possession, a thing to be ordered, a shadow in his household. I fetched water, carried burdens, and did all that was asked without hesitation, for hesitation meant punishment. But even as I bowed under the weight of servitude, my mind wandered beyond the walls of my master's house. At night, when the city fell into quiet, I would lie beneath the sky and let my thoughts drift among the stars. Was there not something beyond this? Was there no justice greater than the will of men? I had no answer, but the question never left me. Then, one day, the air of Makkah changed. It was not the desert wind nor the coming of the traders that carried this shift, but the voice of a single man. Muhammad ibn Abdullah, known for his truthfulness and honor, had begun to speak of a new way, a path that led not to the idols of stone and wood, but to one unseen yet all-knowing. I heard whispers of this message as I moved through the marketplace, tending to my master's errands. The merchants argued, the noblemen scoffed, but the common folk, those like me whose voices were seldom heard, listened. They repeated the words that had been spoken in secret gatherings, that all men were equal in the sight of the one God, that no master held true dominion over another's soul. The words took root in my heart before I even understood them fully. What was this freedom they spoke of? Could a man truly be free while bound by chains? My heart longed to know more, but in my master's house, such questions could not be asked. Yet fate would not let me remain in ignorance. One evening, as I passed through the quieter streets of Makkah, my ears caught the sound of hushed voices. I paused, the weight of caution pressing against my ribs. But curiosity won. I crept closer and found myself on the edges of a gathering. A handful of men sat in the dim glow of a flickering lamp, their faces lit not just by its flame, but by something deeper, conviction. And among them sat the man himself, the messenger, his gaze steady, his voice calm as he spoke of the one true God. My breath caught in my throat. I knew in that instant that my life had already begun to change. The night air hung heavy with silence as I stepped away from the gathering, my thoughts tangled in the words I had just heard. My heart pounded as if trying to escape the confines of my chest, as though it had recognized something greater than itself. The words of the messenger echoed within me, stirring something that had long lay dormant, a yearning for a truth beyond the one I had been forced to accept. For days, I carried those words like a secret ember, hidden within me but never fading. I moved through my master's house as I always had, obedient and unseen, yet inside, I felt different. The world around me seemed sharper, the weight on my shoulders both heavier and lighter at once. He had spoken of a Lord who did not see men as masters and slaves, but as equals, whose dominion was not built on gold and power but on mercy and justice. I had seen cruelty in the eyes of those who ruled Makkah. I had felt the sting of their commands, the weight of their disregard. But this was something new. Something different. I longed to return, to hear more. But fear was a whisper in my ear. What if my master discovered my curiosity? What if he heard the name of Muhammad on my lips? I knew the punishment for those who turned to his message. I had seen it already, merchants losing business, families torn apart, men struck down in the streets. I was nothing more than a slave. What mercy would they show me? And yet, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I found myself drawn once more to the shadows where the faithful gathered. Their voices were low, their expressions solemn, yet in their eyes burned something bright. Hope. Purpose. I listened again. I asked. I learned. And one night, beneath the expanse of stars that had so often been my only companion, I spoke the words aloud. La ilaha illa Allah. Mohammedan Rasul Allah. There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. The moment the words left my lips, I knew there was no turning back. The first lash stole the breath from my lungs. The second sent fire searing through my back. I bit down hard, swallowing the cry that threatened to escape my lips. I would not break. I could not. The sun glared mercilessly above me, its heat wrapping around my body like a second layer of torment. The sand beneath me burned, scorching the bare skin of my shoulders as I lay upon it, bound and exposed. I had known punishment before, but never like this. Umayyah stood over me, his face dark with fury. Renounce him, he spat. Curse his name, and this will end. I lifted my head, every movement sending fresh waves of agony through my body. My lips were cracked, my throat dry as the desert wind. Yet from within me, a strength I had never known arose. My voice, though weak, did not waver.
Ahad! Ahad! The one! The one!
A foot crashed against my ribs, forcing the air from my lungs. Laughter rippled through the crowd that had gathered to watch my suffering. Some jeered, some whispered in pity, but none intervened.
I closed my eyes.
Pain was my world now. Yet within the darkness of my suffering, there was light. They could beat me, break me, but they could not take what was already theirs to give. My soul did not belong to them.
Ahad! Ahad!
The beatings continued. My body weakened, yet my resolve only grew stronger. Each lash, each blow, each insult thrown upon me became a reminder. My chains were only of flesh, but my heart belonged to the one. And then, through the haze of pain, I heard a voice I had not expected. Steady, firm, unyielding.
How much for him?
I forced my swollen eyes open. A figure stood at the edge of the crowd, his face calm yet filled with purpose.
Abu Bakr.
One of the messenger's closest companions.
Umayyah sneered.
For this worthless slave?
Name your price.
And just like that, my fate shifted once more. The desert sun showed no mercy. Its fire pressed against my skin, searing through my flesh and into my very bones. My body lay stretched upon the burning sands of Makkah, the rough grains biting into my back as if the earth itself sought to consume me. And above me, the voice of Umayyah ibn Khalaf rang with cruelty. Renounce him, Bilal, he demanded, his shadow falling across my face. Curse Muhammad, and you will be free. My lips were parched, my throat raw from thirst and pain. The weight of a massive stone crushed my chest, pressing me down, seeking to force the air from my lungs, to break my resolve. But they could not touch the part of me that had already been freed.
I closed my eyes.
The world faded into darkness, save for the single truth that burned within me, brighter than the sun above.
Ahad! Ahad! One! One! A sharp kick struck my side.
The chains around my wrists rattled as I flinched. Umayyah cursed, and the men around him sneered, their patience thinning. Still, I repeated, my voice hoarse but unwavering.
Ahad! Ahad!
I did not know how long they continued. The days and nights blurred together in a haze of agony and determination. But I knew one thing, I would not yield.
Then, one evening, the torment ceased. The chains fell away.
A voice, firm yet kind, spoke above me. Bilal, you are free. I turned my head, vision blurred with pain. A man stood before me, not a master but a brother. Abu Bakr, a companion of the messenger, had come. He had purchased my freedom, not for gold, but for faith. Tears welled in my eyes as I realized the truth. My body bore the wounds of my past, but my soul soared.
I was free.
The air in Medina was different from Mecca. It was lighter, freer, as though it carried the weight of hope rather than oppression. Here, among my brothers, I was no longer Bilal the slave. I was Bilal ibn Rabah, a believer, a man called not by the voice of a master but by the call of my own heart. Yet, even in this newfound freedom, I did not expect what was to come next. One evening, the messenger of Allah looked upon me with a warmth that reached into my very soul. Bilal, he said, your voice carries a depth unlike any other. Call the people to prayer. A tremor passed through me, not of fear but of awe. Me? A man who once had no voice, no standing, no name beyond the possession of another, was to call the faithful? But I did not question his command. I climbed to the highest place in the city, my chest rising and falling with the weight of the moment. And then, for the first time, my voice rang out, not in cries of suffering, nor in the silence of submission, but in a call that would echo through the ages.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The city stilled. Hearts trembled.
And from that moment on, my voice was no longer mine alone. It belonged to faith, to history, to the song of freedom that could never again be silenced.